Luke Skywalker was born into a galaxy of war and oppression. His father, Anakin Skywalker, had turned to the dark side and helped bring about the fall of the Jedi Order. It was in this world that Luke was born, and it was destined he'd be trained to become a Jedi. Now obviously we know that Obi-Wan waited until Luke was 19 years old to begin his training. But this caused many issues, such as Luke never reaching his full potential. That power that Luke was destined to reach had the potential to surpass some of the greatest Jedi in history. So what if things didn't play out this way? What if Luke Skywalker was trained from birth by Obi-Wan on the planet Tatooine? Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had been Anakin Skywalker's mentor before he turned to the dark side, took it upon himself to watch over Luke and keep him safe from the Empire, rather than give him to his uncle. However, Obi-Wan knew that he could not keep Luke hidden forever. Eventually, the young boy would need to be trained in the ways of the Jedi if he was to ever have a chance of defeating the Empire and restoring peace to the galaxy. Obi-Wan was an experienced Jedi Master, having trained under Qui-Gon Jinn and later taking Anakin as an apprentice. He knew what it took to train a Jedi, but he also knew that training Luke from birth would be a challenge. Obi-Wan was too inexperienced and young to train Anakin, but now he is far older, more experienced and a wiser Jedi Master. Because of this, he is more equipped to train Luke and not repeat the mistakes of the past. Unlike Anakin, who had already grown to be a young adult when he began his training, Luke would have to be trained as a child. This would require a different approach, one that would be more focused on nurturing his connection to the Force and developing his physical and mental abilities. Obi-Wan spent countless hours meditating and studying the ways of the Force in order to better understand how to teach a young child. He also spent time honing his own combat skills, knowing that he would need to be able to keep up with a growing and increasingly powerful Luke. When Luke was just a few years old, Obi-Wan began his formal training. At first, it was simple exercises designed to develop Luke's connection to the Force. Obi-Wan taught him how to focus his mind, how to feel the energy of the universe flowing through him, and how to use that energy to move objects with his mind. Luke took to these exercises quickly, showing a natural affinity for the Force. As Luke grew older, Obi-Wan began to teach him more advanced skills. He taught him how to wield a lightsaber, showing him the proper forms and techniques for both offensive and defense. Luke's natural athleticism made him a quick learner, and he soon became proficient with the weapon. It was clear from the beginning that Luke had talent. Much like his father, the Force came easy to him. Simple techniques and Force abilities that would take most younglings years to master, Luke learnt in weeks. Obi-Wan also taught Luke the history and philosophy of the Jedi Order. He told him about ancient Jedi Knights who had protected the galaxy for thousands of years, and about the mistakes that had led to their downfall. He taught Luke the importance of compassion, selflessness, and the pursuit of knowledge. Despite Obi-Wan's best efforts, however, Luke's training was not without its challenges, as no Jedi's is. As he grew older, Luke became increasingly aware of the outside world and the struggles of the rebellion against the Empire. It was a common occurrence for Obi-Wan to take Luke to nearby settlements and worlds to show him what the Empire was capable of causing. This constant view of death and destruction caused Luke's desire to help the oppressed citizens in the galaxy. Obi-Wan understood Luke's urge to help, but he also knew that the time was not right yet. Luke's training was not complete, and he was not yet ready to face the full might of the Empire. Obi-Wan urged Luke to be patient and focus on his training, knowing that his time would come soon enough. Despite the challenges, Luke's training continued. As he entered his teenage years, he began to develop a deeper understanding of the Force. He learned how to use it to sense the emotions and intentions of others, and how to use it to heal injuries and illnesses. Obi-Wan was amazed at Luke's progress, and he knew that it was time for Luke to build his own lightsaber. Building a lightsaber was a dangerous task. It required a Jedi to travel to the planet Ilum, where they would search for a Kyber crystal. The crystal was the heart of a lightsaber, and it was what gave the weapon its power. The caves on Ilum were treacherous, and many Jedi had lost their lives there. Luke was nervous about the task, but he had to do it. He and Obi-Wan traveled to Ilum, and Luke began his search for the Kyber crystal. Luke must do this alone, without his master's assistance. It was tradition that a Jedi Knight searches the caves on Ilum until they locate a Kyber crystal that bonds with them. Luke marches the caves in search of his weapon. For hours he tries to connect with the cave, but he cannot. He believes he must be doing something wrong, until he turns a corner and sees a bright light emitting at the end of a cave. He runs towards it, so glad to have finally found his prize. But as he runs, his mind is jolted back to the desert planet where he grew up. He was extremely confused and didn't understand what was happening. He looked behind him where he saw a man walking into a nearby shop wearing Jedi robes. He didn't know who this man was, but he decided to follow him. Within the shop, the man speaks to a young boy. This boy caught Luke's attention and he wondered who it was. Suddenly, the scenery changed and Luke found himself sitting in the chair within a circular tower, surrounded by other people wearing Jedi robes. In the middle of the room stood the same boy and older man. He heard their names, Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin Skywalker. Skywalker, he thought to himself. Was this his father? Obi-Wan had told him that his father was a Jedi, but he also said that he was killed during Order 66. Luke then sees the young boy when he is older, and he is standing next to Obi-Wan. Luke remained extremely confused. The scenery and environment around him kept changing as he experienced Anakin growing up. He saw battles throughout the Clone Wars, his love for Padme, who Luke could see was his mother. He saw everything. But when Luke learned the truth of Chancellor Palpatine, he saw Anakin go to his office to arrest him, but instead, he killed Master Windu and pledged himself to the dark side. Luke began to shake vigorously. This wasn't true. These visions were lying to him. His father could never do these things that he was witnessing. Luke followed his father as he ravaged the Jedi Temple and killed any Jedi in sight. Anakin went to Mustafar, where he choked his wife to the ground unconscious and fought Obi-Wan. And then he saw Obi-Wan slice him to the ground defeated. It was done. Luke stares in horror as the mask of Darth Vader is placed on his father's head. Luke returns to Ilum and is gasping for air. Obi-Wan had lied to him, he thought. As he looked at his hands, he saw his Kyber crystal resting within his palms. He'd succeeded in getting his Kyber crystal, but why had the Force shown him his father? He turned to leave the cave when his mind was once again shot across the galaxy and placed on a dark world. Luke was an inanimate object. The Force was guiding his movements. He saw Vader calling to him. Vader called Luke his son and told him to come to Moraband immediately. And with that, Luke ran out of the caves. Before we continue, please check out our Discord server where I am very active with the community. It is a great place to discuss the current shows and news. I'll leave the link in the description below and I look forward to seeing you all there. Okay, back to the video. Luke immediately told Obi-Wan what he saw and learned in the visions. Luke asked if Vader truly was his father. Obi-Wan sighed and explained that it was true. Kenobi told Luke that he didn't want him to know because his emotions might come distorted when he eventually faces Vader. He might treat him differently. Luke understood why Obi-Wan didn't tell him, but he was still hurt at the lack of honesty. Obi-Wan was concerned, but knew that the Force must be trying to tell him something. Obi-Wan explained to Luke that he must be very wary of these visions, but not shy away in fear. He should embrace what the Force is telling him and confront the visions. As they left the planet, Luke successfully built his lightsaber on the ship. Obi-Wan knew that now was the right time for him and Luke to join the rebellion. The year is now 1 BBY, and Luke is approximately 18 years old. Luke had completed his training and Obi-Wan had no more to teach him. Obi-Wan was amazed at how powerful Luke was and wondered if he even rivaled Anakin before he turned to the dark side. At this point, the rebellion had slowly been making progress throughout the galaxy, disrupting the Empire's expansion and causing as much disturbance as possible. The rebel fleet was now the largest it had ever been and had lots of backing from various corners of the galaxy. But the Empire was also extremely large and powerful and had a strong grip on the galaxy. They ruled with fear and terror to maintain order and loyalty throughout the numerous systems they controlled. Luke and Obi-Wan met up with the rebellion, who warmly welcomed them. Luke continued to talk to his master about the visions that he saw. Obi-Wan finally said that they will go to Moraband in order to discover what the visions were trying to tell him, just so they can put Luke's mind at rest. Obi-Wan had doubts of the validity of Luke's dreams, but could tell they were getting into Luke's mind, so they decided they must be addressed. Before they left, they were greeted by Ahsoka Tano, an old friend that Kenobi hadn't seen in years. Ahsoka had spent her days working for the rebellion restlessly. She was introduced to Luke Skywalker, who she graciously said hello to. Luke reminded her of his father, Anakin. After she was informed what they were doing, she said she would join them too. The three left and headed to Moraband. Luke, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka landed on Moraband, the planet of the Sith. The Sith had chosen this ancient planet, home to the ruins of the Sith Empire, as their meeting place. As they walked towards the ruins, they could hear the chanting of Sith cult followers. They knew they had to be careful, as the followers were fierce and would fight anyone to protect their Sith lords. As they approached the ruins, they saw Vader sitting in front of a statue of Darth Malgus, but next to him sat the Sith Lord Darth Sidious. They were surrounded by the chanting cult followers. The two Sith Lords turned to face them, and the cult followers fell silent. Palpatine's eyes glowed with the dark side of the Force, and Vader's respirator hissed as he drew his lightsaber. Obi-Wan stepped forward, and with a wave of his hand, the cult followers were thrown back, creating a clear space for the confrontation. The three Jedi ignited their lightsabers, and the battle began. Palpatine unleashed a barrage of Force lightning at Obi-Wan, who countered with his own defensive maneuvers. Meanwhile, Luke and Ahsoka engaged in a ferocious duel with Vader. The battle raged on, with each combatant showing their incredible mastery of the Force. Palpatine was a formidable opponent, using his immense power to attack the Jedi with deadly Force lightning. Obi-Wan was barely holding his own, and it was clear that he was outmatched by the Sith Lord. Luke wasn't just holding his own against Vader, but using his Chosen One genes to outmatch him. Because Luke was trained from birth, his powers were far stronger than what we see in the original trilogy. Many years ago, when Ahsoka was a Padawan to Anakin Skywalker, Anakin had taught her how to face larger opponents. She knew what moves and steps to take in order to duel Vader and win. As he swung the blade at her, there was a sense of familiarity that made her think Anakin was still in there somewhere. The three continued to fight, as Luke used all of his Force power to try and finish his father. Luke used the Force to hurl Vader across the battlefield, cutting off both of his robotic arms with a swift stroke of his lightsaber. Vader fell to the ground defeated, and Luke turned his attention to Palpatine. As Luke rushed towards Palpatine, Obi-Wan was caught off guard by a sudden attack from behind. Palpatine had used the distraction of Luke's attack to sneak up behind Obi-Wan and strike him down. Obi-Wan fell to the ground, his lightsaber extinguished. Ahsoka saw what happened and let out a cry of rage. She charged at Palpatine, but he easily dodged her attacks and sent her flying with a powerful Force push. Luke was now alone against the Sith Lord, and he knew that he had to finish the fight. He charged at Palpatine, their lightsabers clashing with incredible force. Luke was fighting with all of his might, using all of his skills and abilities to defeat the Sith Lord. Luke locked blades with Palpatine before sliding his weapon across Palpatine's arm, causing his limb to hit the floor and his lightsaber to turn off. Luke stared at the old man and struck the killing blow, driving his lightsaber deep into Palpatine's chest. Sidious screamed in agony as he fell to the ground, lifeless. Luke turned to face Vader, who was lying on the ground, his robotic arms destroyed. Ahsoka had returned to her feet as she and Luke marched over to him. They could see the face of Anakin Skywalker beneath the mask. He was still alive, and the wise choice would be to finish him off for good. But neither could do it. For Luke, this was his father, and for Ahsoka, it was the man who used to be her best friend and master. They decided to leave him there and not kill him. As Luke turned away, he says, "Goodbye, father." This shocked Vader to his very core, and he began to hiss and groan for Luke to come back. But it was too late. Luke was gone. The Sith were defeated, and the Empire would surely fall quickly now. In their mind, there was no one left to lead the Empire now that Palpatine was dead. But neither of them ever considered that Grand Admiral Thrawn would take Palpatine's place. I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and let me know in the comments below if you would like a part 2 with the rebellion destroying the remnants of the Empire, with Thrawn potentially making an appearance. Also, be sure to watch What If Ahsoka Went to Mustafar instead of Obi-Wan, and What If Anakin Stopped during Order 66. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.